panel, FDA, and the breast implant community. I'm Dr. Stephanie Manson-Brown, a plastic surgeon and the Vice President of Clinical Development for Device at Allergan. At Allergan, we are committed to the health of patients, understanding science, and providing transparent communication to surgeons and patients. We welcome the opportunity to discuss the important topics that we are going to discuss over the next 2 days. I will start by giving you a brief background on breast implants. I will then talk to post-marketing monitoring, BI-ALCL, and breast implant illness. Breast implants are incredibly important for the millions of women who choose to have them implanted worldwide. Allergan breast implants are supported by significant clinical evidence, including more than 500,000 patient years from clinical studies and a large body of published literature. Surgeons have 2 implant surface options to meet the individual patient needs. Smooth implants are round only. They compose around 90% of the breast implants used in the US today. Textured implants are both anatomical and round and are used in about 10% of surgeries in the US. Outside the US, these rates are reversed. The key benefits of breast implants include psychosocial improvements such as quality of life and sexual well-being. They provide restoration of physical form for congenital abnormalities, as well as for patients who suffer from loss of volume due to aging or pregnancy. They also provide an important option as part of breast cancer care, such as post-mastectomy. As with all medical devices, patients and surgeons must give careful consideration to the risks as well as the benefits of breast implants, regardless of implant surface. Textured implants, including BioCell, provide other benefits. These include anatomical shape, improved tissue adherence, which is important for tissue stabilization, and implant stabilization, and there may also be a reduced capsular contracture rate. However, cases of BI-ALCL have been reported in patients with an implant history that includes textured implants. What is important is that the prognosis is excellent, especially when identified early and treated appropriately. While each patient and surgical situation is unique, the literature supports textured implant use for aesthetic preference, primary cancer reconstruction, compromised soft tissue, congenital abnormalities, and patients who've had previous capsular contracture. Once again, however, a thorough discussion of the benefits and risks associated with implants is critical. I will now discuss our post-market monitoring programs. Following the 2011 advisory panel, FDA worked with industry to provide comprehensive post-market monitoring of adverse events. This program can be considered in 3 parts: post-market surveillance, the National Breast Implant Registry, and a large post-approval study. Additional post-approval commitments include completion of continued access studies through 5 years, focus group studies of patient labeling, and ongoing analysis of all returned devices. Post-market surveillance includes medical assessment of adverse event reporting and evaluation of safety trends. The National Breast Implant Registry collects baseline data from all newly implanted patients and those requiring reoperation. It improves time to identification of events and evaluates signals across multiple registries. Allergan currently has 1 ongoing post-approval study with 3 arms: the BIFS arm, which collects data for round implants, the 410 arm that collects data for anatomical implants, and the NBIR arm that collects data on reoperations similar to that of the National Breast Implant Registry. Here we see the status of the 3 arms of the long-term post-approval study. There are more than 53,000 patients enrolled in the 3 arms. The BIFS arm is fully enrolled with 2,000 patients. The 410 arm is partially enrolled with 421 patients. Patients who are enrolled in BIFS and the 410s arm complete questionnaires annually and return to their surgeons for scheduled office visits at 1, 4, and 10 years post-implantation to collect information on rare disease, neurological and rheumatologic signs and symptoms, as well as device-specific endpoints. Compliance with the questionnaires overall is high, in a range of around 70 to 80%, showing engagement in the study arms. We are working to improve office follow-up visits for patients by increasing contact through email, phone, text message and mail. We're also taking measures to increase investigator engagement. Our post-market monitoring program provides important information to evaluate the benefit-risk profile of our implants. I will now talk about BI-ALCL. Patients with BI-ALCL can have an excellent prognosis when identified early and treated appropriately. BI-ALCL is an uncommon, slow-growing T-cell lymphoma that typically presents with fluid around the implant, but in some of these cases it can extend beyond the capsule. The median time to onset is approximately 8 years, although the range is broad. Although the etiology is not fully understood, literature reports that higher implant surface area may increase the risk of BI-ALCL. The leading hypothesis centers around biofilm, and there are 3 likely factors that contribute to this, including procedure, product, and patient. During a procedure, bacteria can be introduced in the surgical environment. The higher surface area of a textured implant may increase the risk of bacterial accumulation. This bacterial contamination and biofilm may result in long-term inflammation. And finally, a patient's genetic predisposition may add to the inflammatory response, resulting in transformation to BI-ALCL. Here we see the incidence of BI-ALCL reported in textured implants from the literature. As you can see, BI-ALCL, while uncommon, is variable across countries. Additionally, we see a wider range of incidences reported in Australia, which may speak to clustering of cases, potential genetic or surgical technique components. Allergan's post-market surveillance data shows a worldwide BI-ALCL incident rate of 1 in 32,000 when BioCell textured implants were in place at the time of diagnosis. When we look at the US, we can see an incidence rate of 1 in 16,000. Data from our 410 continued access studies, which included only BioCell implants, shows an incidence rate of 1 in 3,000. These rates for BioCell are higher than reported across manufacturers and may represent the effects of procedure, patient genetic predispositions, and/or environmental factors. Evidence suggests that BI-ALCL mitigation can be effective. To mitigate the introduction of bacteria in the surgical environment and subsequent biofilm formation on higher surface area implants, an enhanced 14-point aseptic protocol has been proposed. Of the 14 points, enhancements include changing gloves between implant sites, soaking the implant in antiseptic solution, and the use of minimal touch technique. When these and other steps were taken, researchers reported 0 cases of BI-ALCL in 42,000 BioCell implants with a mean follow-up of 11.7 years. These data underscore the value of continued communication on the importance of aseptic technique. In addition to mitigation strategies, evidence suggests that BI-ALCL treatments are effective. When patients notice swelling or less commonly pain, it is important that they seek medical support early, because early identification and appropriate treatment are critical for best outcomes. For the large majority of patients, implant removal with surgical capsulectomy alone is completely effective. In addition, a novel targeted treatment in advanced disease is effective, with complete remission being demonstrated with brentuximab. We at Allergan remain committed to improved awareness through educational activities for surgeons and primary care providers, working with international medical societies to increase awareness with patients and physicians, global scientific roundtables, online seminars, consensus statements and journal supplements, and making patient materials available, including a website and brochures. Secondly, Allergan realizes insurance coverage can be an issue, and we are committed to the ongoing use of internal resources to assist surgeons in obtaining coverage for patients in these circumstances. And finally, we provide financial assistance to patients for seroma evaluation and for any treatment associated with BI-ALCL. Furthermore, Allergan remains committed to improved awareness through research. We absolutely want to understand the cause of disease so we can help patients. We are doing this through both independent and internal research. With independent research, we are supporting work on immunology, looking into the cause of PI-ALCL and genetic associations. Internally, we're working on infection control through the efficacy of aseptic solutions and exploring the impact of textured surface area on bacterial colonization and developing lower surface area textured implants. Our last topic is breast implant illness. As noted by Drs. Gottlieb and Schuren from FDA, there are patients who are concerned that the symptoms they are suffering from are related to their breast implants. There are over 80 signs and symptoms that have been reported under the term breast implant illness, such as cognitive issues, fatigue, and muscle pain. We empathise with these women and can only imagine how distressing this is for them. While no established case definition exists, and the time to onset following implantation varies by patients, it is imperative that we seek to understand breast implant illness, despite the challenges with clinical evaluation. The key challenges are, firstly, we don't currently have an established case definition. Secondly, similar symptoms can present in patients without breast implants. And third, we lack standardized assessment tools to compare data that have been collected. However, currently we are actively monitoring our post-approval study data to look for links between implants and symptoms. We also regularly communicate with FDA regarding post-market surveillance and provide a medical assessment of every single reported event. With these next steps in mind, our recommendations are for close collaboration between patient groups, industry, regulators, and experts. We want to continue work on improved symptom to disease mapping and also recommend independent epidemiological review of signs and symptoms data from large post-approval studies. So let me close by highlighting the following points. Breast implants are backed by significant long-term clinical experience and comprehensive post-market monitoring. Evidence supports that breast implants, including BioCell textured implants, provide important benefits to women who choose to have them implanted. The incidence of PI-ALCL is low, and when identified early and treated appropriately, prognosis is excellent. We continue to listen to patients and evaluate signs and symptoms from each patient case individually. Evidence supports that the benefits of breast implants outweigh their risks, and we are committed to working with FDA and other parties to get best outcomes for patients. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. I'll now ask for representatives of Mentor to make their presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Advisory Committee and the FDA. My name is Raina Doria. I'm Vice President of Regulatory Affairs supporting Mentor. At Mentor, patient safety is our first priority. We want to thank you for the opportunity to present our perspective on breast implant safety and risks. I'll begin with an update on the potential risk factors associated with breast implant-associated anaplastic large cell lymphoma. I'll then present our data relative to the occurrence of systemic symptoms, followed by a commentary on the use of registries for the continued surveillance of breast implants. I'm joined today by additional experts who can help me answer questions as needed. Mentor gel and saline breast implants are supported by long-term clinical data, including 3 10-year prospective clinical trials. They're sold in more than 80 countries and have been chosen by millions of women worldwide for over 30 years. This slide captures the number of observed patient years for some of the key post-approval studies completed using our gel-filled breast implants. It also reflects our 2 prospective post-approval studies that are currently being conducted to address some of the unanswered questions related to breast implant safety. Last week, Mentor received a warning letter for the combined cohort study, specifically related to the enrollment in the memory shape group. The memory shape implants are available with a texture surface only. Over the last several years, the use of textured devices in the US has decreased substantially. As a result, Mentor has been challenged in enrolling this study group, despite taking steps to increase enrollment. We look forward to working with FDA to address these concerns. So let's begin with BIA-ALCL. While highly curable if detected early, BIA-ALCL is a serious condition. It is generally accepted that women with breast implants are at an increased risk of developing this lymphoma. What is not fully understood is why. Many factors have been suggested as contributing to the development of BIA-ALCL. The true causality of this disease is likely multifactorial. Recent publications have noted differences in the number and type of bacteria, referred to as biofilm, present in the capsules from patients diagnosed with BIA-ALCL. Others have suggested that particulate matter present in the breast capsule may be a contributing factor. In fact, our own research has shown that implants from different manufacturers have varying amounts of free or loosely attached silicone particles on their surfaces. More recent studies have suggested genetic predisposition, and some have pointed to surface texture as an important influencing factor, which I will discuss next. Implant surface texture varies greatly across manufacturers. Looking at the scanning electron micrograph images of implant surfaces for various manufacturers, we see the surfaces are quite unique. Mentor imprinted shell surface shown on top has small peaks and valleys, while others have a lattice-like pattern and still others show holes or crevices. These patterns create differences in surface area. Studies have suggested that the greater the surface area, the more bacteria may adhere to the implant surface. A greater amount of bacterial biofilm is thought to contribute to a higher level of chronic inflammation, which may lead to the development of BIA-ALCL. This is reinforced by published data which show that textured implants made by different manufacturers have different BIA-ALCL occurrence rates. This graph shows that the cumulative proportion of patients with BIA-ALCL over time with Mentor texture implants remains low compared to other textured implants with a greater surface area. While not a randomized controlled study, this observational study analyzed all reported cases of BIA-ALCL in Australia and New Zealand between 2008 and 2018 and took into account the surface texture as well as texture sales data dating back to 1999 obtained directly from the leading breast implant manufacturers, including Mentor. These two pieces of information allowed for the risk of BIA-ALCL to be estimated per specific implant and surface type. For Mentor imprinted texture implants, the risk of BIA-ALCL was rare, one case in 86,029 implants. This incidence rate was 16 to 25-fold lower than that observed with other textured implants. Other published BIA-ALCL studies conducted in several different countries reinforce these results. The number of BIA-ALCL cases reported in patients with Mentor implants is low in comparison with the total number of cases identified. For years, Mentor has maintained either higher or roughly equal breast implant worldwide market share with the next leading manufacturer. Therefore, the low number of BIA-ALCL cases cannot be accounted for by differences in sales volume. While Mentor textured implants have a low rate of BIA-ALCL, it remains a significant concern for us. However, textured implants offer important benefits for patients and do still have a place in the array of patient choices. These benefits include reduced risk of reoperation due to capsular contracture in subglandular augmentation patients and asymmetry in reconstruction patients as compared to smooth. In addition, textured implants offer the benefit of less movement and rotation within the capsule. Finally, shaped implants are an important option for physicians and patients, and they're only available with a textured surface. We would also like to take this opportunity to comment on some recently introduced breast implant classification systems that were designed to characterize surface properties. It's our position that implant-specific long-term clinical data are the best reflection of an implant's performance since benchtop classification methods are not harmonized and, more importantly, are not clinically validated. Now I will shift topics to systemic symptoms. Some women with breast implants have reported a range of systemic symptoms. These may present differently in different patients. And while the causes of these types of symptoms can be difficult to determine in any person, we consider patient safety and reported symptoms very seriously, and we understand the need to monitor them continuously through both internal and external sources, including our own clinical study data and safety surveillance activities. We would like to share a few findings now, and additional data has been provided in the briefing packet. We've analyzed data from our memory gel and memory shape core studies to look at various systemic symptoms. Presented here are the percentages of new reports over time of fatigue, insomnia, and joint pain after implantation of a memory gel implant on the top row or a memory shape implant on the bottom row. The line graphs show no consistent increase in reports of newly developed fatigue, insomnia, or joint pain with longer exposure to the implant. However, Mentor is committed to continuing to examine the possible connection between systemic symptoms and breast implants through grants and registry support, our own internal extensive ongoing post-market surveillance, and of course post-approval studies. This brings us to our next topic, the use of breast implant registries for continued surveillance of breast implant safety. Today you will hear about the National Breast Implant Registry and the Profile Registry. Mentor believes that these registries can be used to address some of the open questions related to breast implant safety. The NBIR will allow surgeons and manufacturers to track and trend their data using its analytics capabilities. The Profile Registry is already filling in the gaps on BIA-ALCL cases in terms of the number of cases and critical details so that potential risk factors can be identified. Here are some of our specific recommendations to improve the NBIR's collection of clinically meaningful data. We're suggesting that a random sampling of women participate in a sub-study that allows for the collection of additional risk factors at the time of entry into the NBIR and ongoing thereafter. Examples of additional risk factors to be monitored include family medical history and complete breast implant history. Genetic marker testing may also be conducted, as recent studies have shown that some patients may be genetically predisposed to the development of BIA-ALCL or systemic symptoms. Finally, capsular tissue may be analyzed for biofilm at the time of explantation. Equally important is the collection of outcome data, such as the occurrence and the severity of immunological, rheumatological, and neurological symptoms. We would recommend that monitoring does not stop at implant removal, but that valuable information can be collected by the continued collection of data post-explantation. A patient's quality of life should also be assessed using a validated tool such as the BreastQ. In summary, Mentor fully supports the NBIR and considers this registry, along with the Profile Registry, as our best means for collecting long-term clinical data that will inform us about the safety of breast implants. As patient safety is our first priority, we support open and transparent dialogue so that women have all of the information needed to make informed choices about their breast surgery. To close, we would like to emphasize that we see this effort as a shared responsibility. We look forward to the discussion today and partnering with surgeons, patients, and the FDA to identify additional ways that we can educate patients, their caregivers, and their physicians about the benefits and risks associated with breast implants. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. We'll now hear from